Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Woods Paranormal Podcast. Yes, Amanda and I are still alive. We appreciate all the comments and the concerns. We've just been busy with life and investigations, location scouting. We were lucky enough to have my dad come into town, which was awesome. We got to visit with him for about a week, and I really enjoyed that. So, um, like I said, a lot of stuff going on. We're investigating new locations, we're scouting new locations, we're out talking to Bigfoot witnesses. Just so many things going on, and of course, both of us work full time. Unfortunately, this is not our full time job yet. But with your help, maybe we can blow up our YouTube channel. And if you could go over there and subscribe, I appreciate it. And maybe this will become our full time job. Anyway, so that's what we've been doing. Lots of location scouting, lots of stuff going on, lots of stuff coming down the pike. People asking, hey, what are you doing for Halloween? Well, we're going to be going out to a cool new location we've never been to. It's about 4 hours from here. And we're going to be going out and investigating a haunted hotel, which, every year Amanda and I go out to different said to be haunted locations. We stay the night and we see if we experience anything. Well, this time we're going to go out and actually investigate with the owners, which is going to be awesome. I don't know how many paranormal investigators are actually coming with us, but we're going to be spending the night there. We're going to have DVR cameras up everywhere. We're going to be basically doing EVP sessions. We'll do spirit box sessions. We'll do K2 sessions, and we'll just see who and what we can make contact with. This is a very famous location. Been investigated by ghost hunters, ghost adventurers, and other real popular paranormal groups and ghost hunting groups. So we'll just see if we're lucky enough to get anything. We have a lot of other investigations. We're in the process of setting up. We're in negotiations with a lot of businesses in Virgin Territory. So, when you go into these locations, you just never know what, if anything, you're going to get. I mean, you could have floodgates open, like what happened to us down at the cafe. That show will be coming up here in the next couple months. Probably we'll be airing that. Lots of evidence from there. I think we got 3 or 4 full body apparitions in a year-long investigation into that location. That was Smitty's Cafe. Unfortunately, they have moved locations. They're no longer there, so our research there has ended. But that was a place we would go like once a month to investigate and do research. And that place, I mean, every time we were there, it seemed like something happened. Somebody had a personal experience. Somebody had something happen. It was like multiple things happen. It was never just like, oh, we had one experience. We had 2 experiences. Always like a ton of experiences. K2s will let out in response to our questions and stuff like that. So that'll be coming down the pike. Other things going on. More Bigfoot research. I mean, like I said before, we've been interviewing a lot of potential Bigfoot witnesses. We've also been talking to a lot of other paranormal groups, Bigfoot research groups. Bear with me, I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. And we've been talking to them about the Sam Houston National Forest, and recently some other places have come to light, and places, they're just virgin territory. Nobody really has investigated those locations before. So we're being really careful with what we're doing, how we're doing our investigations. We want to set up more locations like Joe's, where, I don't know if you've seen the Joe's show, but all that evidence and all that documentation of Bigfoot activity happened over about a year and a half's time. More and more witnesses came forward that lived on this property or were there when something happened, and unfortunately a lot of them didn't want to come on camera, but we did have a lot of personal experiences ourselves. I mean, I must have seen half a dozen Bigfoots on this property. So, that said, like if you watched my last video, I'm not going to give away the location of where we were, but that location is possibly a juvenile Bigfoot location. It is right next to a river. There's a crap ton of deer down there, and if you watch the show, when I was first driving down there, I mean, I had deer all on my left side, and I counted like 40 of them. I just stopped counting because there's so many of them. And the locations I keep seeing them in, when I go down there, in fact, that when I was down there, I went into an area where I had not gone before, and I kind of followed that thing for a while until it basically went behind a tree, and I didn't feel comfortable walking in there any further because I didn't know how many. Number one, how many were in there. If number two, if it was actual Bigfoot or just somebody like trying to bait me into going into that area, and number three, if I did get into the area, what was going to happen if I got in there? It may not have just been a Bigfoot sighting at that point. It might have been, um, they may have retaliated. I felt like I pushed it to the point where I just didn't want to continue on and have it react in a negative way, especially because I intend to go back there more and continue my research. And that's also a good location to do UFO research as well. So part of going into Bigfoot research is building trust with these creatures. When I first started out into Bigfoot research, and if you haven't listened to my Blackstar video, my Blackstar Canyon podcast, or if you haven't viewed our videos on Blackstar Canyon, some of our older videos, you can see that I experienced a crap ton of stuff. I'm not going to go into all my sightings, but I had one sighting that took me from thinking they were just some kind of something that somebody made up to holy crap, they're real. And once you've had that experience, it's, at least for me, it was like I got to find out more about these. I was just number one, stunned to see that something like that actually does exist. Number two, I was just beyond curious at that point. I was like, well, what is this thing, and why is it here? What's it doing out here? How long has it been here? How long has it been following me? And I started going through my accounts of my experiences. That one time I heard, I had a group of 6 people witness it with me. It sounded like gunshots at first, 3 gunshots, right next to us. Literally 10 feet away. And it was down in that little river bottom, and we were above it, and there was a huge tree there. You couldn't see whatever was making the noise. And then it bang, bang, bang again. It sounded like wood knocks, but I just kind of cast it off. I never really thought it was anything. I think my very first Bigfoot sighting ever was when we were first starting out back in the early 90s, when we first went to Blackstar Canyon, and we were just walking, and we weren't doing any Bigfoot research. We were looking for ghosts up there because we heard it was super haunted. And as we were walking, we kept hearing people walk with us, and we would stop. All of a sudden, you hear like people still walking, and you could hear like feet shuffling in the gravel. It was crazy. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to bump you guys. So, anyways, I think when we got about halfway down this trail, or this road at that point, something was on the left side of the road, crouched down, and it was this big, huge black silhouette. And it didn't look like a tree or a bush, but I think it was trying to pretend to be so. So as we started walking up closer to it, we were about 30 feet away from it. And we got down to about 20 feet, and this thing stood up. And it was tall. It was way taller than me, maybe a couple feet taller than me, maybe 3 feet, 4 feet taller than me. It literally 3-stepped the road. It was halfway off the road. It was probably 3 or 4 feet off the road on the left side, if you're looking straight down this road. Stepped into the middle of the road, stepped across halfway, basically a couple 3 feet off of the road, and then took one more step in behind some brush and a tree and disappeared. I just thought that was the tallest shadow person I had ever seen. And so at this point, now I know there's a trail back there, and it leads up to a little back and forth road, fire access road that goes up to the top of that hill. And I'm guessing that basically it was walking back up there. And that's what it was doing. It was just watching us. And again, it could have been a scout. But anyway, so that's what, that was interesting. That kind of piqued my interest. But one of the questions people ask me, do you believe in the Patterson Gimlin film? The answer to that is yes, I do. I do believe that. The reason I believe that, again, with all my sightings I've had over 40 in my lifetime. And I'll get into that in a second. But essentially, I was walking out of the same canyon, Black Star Canyon, 2 o'clock in the morning, and was actually ghost hunting. I hadn't had any activity all night, no audio, no K2 hits, no nothing, right? Walking out, and I just felt like I was being watched. And so I started scanning, and on the left side is this big open field with brush, of course, and trees and debris and all other stuff. And it's pretty much open. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, you can see all the way back to the trees that are about 100 feet away. And there's a path there. There's an old, um, it's an old farm, essentially. And there's old pens, basically, for horses that are still set up there. It's a cool location. And the Spanish basically were there. I think they were from the Spanish times, or it was from when they were mining low-grade coal out of Black Star Canyon. One of the two, or maybe it's something else completely, but that's a horse corral. And next to it is a bush, and then there's a path, a walking path, that would have been like a driveway, if you will, that goes up to the top of that little hill. And so I'm looking off to my left, expecting to see a deer or something, because I just felt like I was being watched. So I had a big, heavy-duty flashlight with me that had about 2,000 lumens. It was like a car light. And I've kind of talked about this on my previous podcast, but so I start shining my light across there, and I spotlight this thing just standing there, and it's about my height and my shape. I'm 6'2", about 280, 290. This thing was tall and lanky. It looked like a monkey, a very, very tall monkey or a hairy person, just standing there. And it looked at me, and I looked at it, and it basically just stood there. And I'm pretty sure it didn't like being spotlighted, but it basically took one step. And as it took that step, it did the whole Patterson Gimlin film thing. It basically took a step, and as its arms were spread forward and back, and its legs were spread forward and back, and almost in like a straight pattern, almost like it turned sideways. It couldn't turn its head. It turned its whole shoulders, glanced at me, and then basically took one more step, and then one more step, and then disappeared. It covered about 30 feet. If I had been able to, if I had a camera that could have caught that night, I wish I could have gotten that on film. Because if you could have put that up next to the Patterson Gimlin film where it's walking, I would imagine maybe the size of the creatures would probably have been way different. This one was probably way smaller than Patty. But I would imagine that the gapes, the way it walked, the way it did everything would be exactly the same. So that's why I believe in the Patterson Gimlin film. I watched the day after I had that sighting, I went back and watched the Patterson Gimlin film, and I'm like, yes, that is exactly the same thing I saw. So yes, I do believe in the Patterson Gimlin film. People talk to me about blob squatches all the time. Why do everybody get blob squatches? Well, there's multiple reasons. Give me 1 second, I'm going to grab another sip of coffee. All right, let's open this can of worms. Blob squatches, in my belief, because I mean, if you've done paranormal research, you've gotten at least 1 or 2 blob squatches in your day if you're out in the field. If you're using trap cams, if you're just taking pictures into the brush, if you're trying to record something off in the distance, you've got a blob squatch. So let's start with one of the main reasons I believe that people get blob squatches. Number one, well, the Bigfoot is behind something, brush, a tree, something. A camera is kind of like our eye. If I hold my hand out like this, I'm looking at the wall, but I'm looking at my hand. Let me do this way. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this better. So just put your hand out in front of your face, essentially about maybe a foot and a half away, and stare at the object that's beyond your hand. And you'll see that your hand's pretty much clear, and whatever's behind it is blurry. Well, it's not blurry; it's just not in focus. So imagine you have now take your hand and put your hand behind it, just a little bit behind it, and look at it. Your hand in front is clear. Your hand in back is also is out of focus a little bit. So I think Bigfoots know that if they stand behind things, it's going to be harder for number one us to see them. I don't think they really understand cameras. I think they really understand the fact that something's being pointed at them, maybe, and that probably makes them nervous and they freeze. I think they're naturally curious, but they're also scared of us, which is probably a good thing. Um, Unfortunately, humans are. The day that somebody can actually get a Bigfoot, a live Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot body that we can get to somebody that can actually study it, um, and the government doesn't take it over, is the day that I think Bigfoot's probably, I don't want to say go extinct, but probably have a serious problem on their hands. And I think that's just going to stir up a lot of controversy and a lot of it's going to start a whole. It's just going to start a whole problem. And so part of me thinks, it'd be really cool to prove Bigfoots exist. But the other part of me goes, because I'm more for protection of them. I don't want them to be harmed. I don't want them to be messed with. I want them to just do their thing and not be, yes, I do want to study them, but I don't want to interfere with them. I don't want to cause them problems. I would love to interact with them. I would love to have the opportunity to maybe live in a family group with them for a day or two, like Jane Goodall did, and she went and lived with the mountain gorillas. But I don't want to. I don't want them to be harmed. I don't want them to be put into zoos or put on display somewhere. I just don't think that's fair. I just, they're, they live in secrecy for a reason. Yeah. So, anyways, bit of rant. So, getting back to Blob Squatch, another reason I think is people don't have their camera in focus, and people are now shooting with cell phones too. The quality of cell phones is pretty high. The picture quality has gotten a lot better, but think about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The camera, you're looking at a 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe a 5 if you're lucky megapixel camera. What megapixels are is they're just little squares that are inside of the picture. And the more you kind of zoom in on them, the more they kind of get pulled apart, and that's why a picture gets blurry. Now there's more and more megapixels, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller. So inside this video camera, inside this picture that you're looking at if you're watching a YouTube channel, there's all these little squares that make up this picture in the video. And essentially, you can zoom in on it. The more pixels that are wow, the more pictures that are in this camera. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. We were talking about megapixels in the cameras. So the more megapixels you have in a camera, the more you can zoom in on it without it getting blurry. And I think that a lot of the pictures you're seeing out there, have been taken years ago. They're not. A lot of them are not new. If you've actually seen some of the newer footage that's come out from people taking pictures with cell phones and stuff like that, they're getting better. The people are actually not trying to take a picture of them. They're using their video camera. And if you're listening to this and you're looking for Bigfoot and you're using your phone, always record and turn your phone sideways, so you get a landscape photo, a landscape video of them. Try not to do the phone. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll understand this. So don't have your phone like this. Have your phone like this. Because when you do your phone like this, you get this skinny little picture. But when you turn your phone like this, you actually get the full length, the full width of the camera, which makes it makes it easier to go through and see what you're recording. So that's it. Another reason people get blob squatches is because they try and zoom in on the actual creature. They try and zoom in and to see what it is, and then they'll crop it and then basically pull that blurry picture out to show the world, hey, this is what I got. And that's awesome, but the problem is that you just created a blurry picture. Um, Another thing is trap cams. Trap cams catch a lot of possible Bigfoots, and people present that. And the problem is that maybe a Bigfoot's moving at the time, or it's behind a tree or whatever. It's really hard to see. We've gotten multiple Bigfoots on trap cams, and we've always been able to get good quality pictures because we're using high quality gear. But some people, sometimes you just can't afford a real expensive trap cam. I mean, some of the when you see on the shows when they're using those trap cams, those are $5, $6, $7, $800 trap cams. I mean, I can't go out and buy one of those. I could go out and buy one of them, but I couldn't buy anything else for the rest of the month, probably, or the next couple months, because I spent so much money on one piece of gear. I'd rather have 10 trail cams up in an area than one trail cam that is $800. Also, with trail cams, a lot of the time, if you do actually get lucky enough to leave a trail camp in a place where Bigfoots are, a lot of the time they get pulled down and destroyed, either by bears or mountain lions or maybe even Bigfoot. So, that said, I think that's what happens. Something's moving, they move too quick, there's just like a blur that comes through. Bigfoots do move pretty quickly. They will fly through a picture. They will, once they realize they've been seen, they'll try and disappear as quick as they can, or they'll freeze. I've seen Bigfoot standing still, and they're really hard to identify. Most people, if a Bigfoot was standing 100 feet away from them, in a tree line, and it's standing still, you probably wouldn't see it. And it's just because they blend in so well to the environment. And I think that's another factor where you get a blob squatch. People, the camera will focus in on other things in that picture, especially if it's distant. The camera will pick the closest thing. Let's say the Bigfoot's 2 feet behind the tree, and the tree's here. Again, this is what I was talking about earlier. It'll grab the tree first, and then basically whatever's behind it will be less clear. So, anyways, that's basically why I think a lot of people get blob squatches, even on video. A lot of the time, the cell phone videos, they can't keep up with the rate of movement. If you move your phone really quickly, you're going to get a blurry picture. With the little video cameras that we carry around, it's a little clearer. The cameras are set up to be, they're set up for movement. They're sports cameras and stuff. And the really big camera that we carry does an even better job. It has much more megapixels, and it's basically a higher end camera, and it's meant to document stuff like that. So, anyways, most average people out in the brush are not going to be out in the forest or out for a hike or out for just a walk down the road, and they see something, they just don't know how to properly take a picture or get a video of Bigfoots. I mean, most of the time they're startled. Secondly, they're probably not expecting to see something, and they're grabbing for this phone, and this thing is basically turning and running. So, I think that's another reason that people basically get the back end of a Bigfoot. It's really hard to identify them from the back, especially if you can't really see the head, or if there's. Well, I've noticed that a couple of times I've seen them, they always seem to look like they're zigzagging back and forth when they run. They don't just go straight ahead. They zigzag if they think they're being followed. I think that's just to throw you off their path. So I think that's what happens too. Is if this thing is zigzagging back and forth, and you're trying to get a picture of it, and they move pretty quickly. I think that's why also people get Bigfoot, Blob Squatches, of Bigfoot. So, people are also asking, hey, what are you guys up to? What are you going to do next? We're also going to be doing a Halloween special. I think I talked about that already. So that'll probably be out maybe on Halloween night or a couple nights before. We're also investigating. We're going to be investigating more Bigfoot reports. Like I said before, I said this before. We're going to be talking about. We're talking to witnesses right now, Bigfoot witnesses, We're looking for new locations to research. We're getting into a lot of ghost hunting, virgin territory ghost hunting, which is double-edged sword because you go into these locations and you spend all this time and all this energy and all this money to get into them, and then you get no evidence. So, that's something that's going to happen too. Also, Amanda and I are doing a lot of location scouting. That'll be a new series on our YouTube channel. A lot of the time you see people basically just set up to do an investigation and then maybe you see them present evidence. Well, there's more to it. If you're really doing research and you're really looking for locations, you're going to go out and do a location scout, or maybe you go out and you visit a location and you kind of get the feel for the location. Amanda and I have been into enough locations where we can kind of tell, does this feel like it's got activity? Does it feel like it might be haunted? Does it feel like there might be something going on here? And then the next step is basically to try and make contact with either an owner or a manager that works there, to see if you can get permission to investigate that location. And then if you are, then you're setting up, basically taking the time to set up and coordinate with that person when is the best time to set up, or can we set up multiple times to come in and maybe just leave our DVR system running at the end of the night and then come in and do a full investigation later on that evening, or how is this going to work? So Man and I are going to be doing a little bit more documentation on that too, where you guys will get to see the location scout. We might not be able to investigate that location, but we're at least going to go scout that location out. And we're basically talking about the location. So you'll be seeing that on the YouTube channel as well. And maybe we might even be talking about it on here if it doesn't get set up as a location that we're going to investigate. Maybe some other paranormal team will be looking at to get in there or whatever if we aren't. But anyway, so that said, like I said, we have a lot going on. We're setting up a lot of stuff coming down the pike, more ghost hunting, more Bigfoot research. We're going to be doing some UFO research. I'm going to go back to the location I was supposed to be doing the UFO research at. Got sidetracked because I was chasing down something. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a Bigfoot or if it was a person or if it was just something else in the woods. I would seriously doubt it was a person at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you never know. Somebody could have been out there walking around, saw me walking around with the camera, talking to myself, and thought, "Hey, this guy's crazy. I'm out of here." And then basically ran up the path into the woods and started hiding. But I'm pretty sure that was a juvenile Bigfoot that I was chasing. If you watch our last video on our YouTube channel, that's basically the video I'm talking about. But we also did some Facebook live stream too on that as well. So stay tuned to Facebook too, because sometimes we'll be doing live streaming, probably in front of the investigation. We're going to start doing a better job of putting a schedule out so people can say, hey, at this time, at this location, start time's this. We'll be doing a little bit of a live, walk around, showing you guys what we're doing, and then basically we'll start the investigation, but that won't be live anymore. So, anyways, more live investigations coming, more live streams on Facebook, maybe even on YouTube. We'll see what happens. So stay tuned to that, and we'll keep everybody updated on what's going on with that. Like I said, we're just gonna be setting up investigations like crazy now, especially going into October. So depending on the weather out here, so we'll see what happens in the next couple of days with the system that's supposed to be coming in. But podcasts will now be coming out every either Thursday night or Friday night. I'm not sure. I apologize for the break in. Basically, the break in podcasts will be coming back on here shortly. We're going to start doing them probably every Thursday night or Wednesday night, and trying to get them up for you guys on Thursday or Fridays from here on out. So, that said, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys all for listening. We thank you for your support, and please continue to support our not only our podcast, but if you can go over to our YouTube channel, we'd appreciate that too, and subscribe over there. If you enjoy our podcast, you'll enjoy our investigations, and there's just a lot of content there. We're trying to grow that into 1,000 subscribers, and once we do, we'll probably be doing some kind of major giveaway. I think when we get to 200 subscribers, we're also going to be doing a major giveaway as well, and maybe at 400 or 500 as well, and maybe 750 or whatever. But maybe a hat like this. If you're watching our YouTube channel, you might be giving away hats. We're working on getting T-shirts again. The shirts that we got just were not of the quality that I was happy with. So, anyways, thanks guys. We appreciate you listening. You guys all have a great day and stay haunted.